Stella, Splash, Simba, Hydrox, Ditto, and Boo, the lucky ferals.
I've had some questions about pureeing food for sick cats. So Ditto was diagnosed with a severe mouth issue about 4 months ago. The first vet that saw him said that he had a very large open wound in his mouth, and she saw what looked like a tumor. We did not know if it was an abscess at the time or a tumor, so he was put on antibiotics and we treated him aggressively as if it was an abscess. And then a month later, he went to another vet for a second opinion, and that vet also saw the large wound in his mouth and confirmed that it looked more like a cancer than an abscess, and that in his experience, whenever he saw something like that, it was usually a cancer. And as a vet, he had decades more experience than the initial vet that saw Ditto a month prior. So during this entire time, I've been pureeing Ditto's food to try to make it as easy for him to eat as possible. Both of the vets that saw him were surprised that he was eating, because they said that most cats that they see with a mouth that looked like Ditto's were not eating at all. They stopped eating because it was too painful. So the goal is to make eating as least painful as possible. This is the tool that I use. This is a Braun immersion blender. It is a Braun multi-quick immersion blender, and it has a mini food processor attachment on the bottom. So I originally got this over a year ago for myself because I like to make healthy homemade ice cream that is dairy-free and sugar-free. So what I'll do with this is I'll put some frozen fruit in it, and I'll put some honey and some coconut milk, and it makes an amazing healthy ice cream, and that's why I had this. But then when I was dealing with Ditto's problem, I said this would probably be really good for pureeing food for the cats, and yes, it is. So let me show you how I do that. I will put a link to this unit and similar units in the description below this video, and also I'll pin it as a comment. You can get these on Amazon. They come in different size sets based on how many attachments. The one I got has like 7 different attachments, and they're all super useful. But this is the one that I use on a daily basis. This mini food processor, it is so powerful. It is way more powerful than any other mini food processor I've tried. Of course, you could use a magic bullet if you have one. I've found that they don't puree as fine as this does. You could also use just a regular mini food processor. I've tried a few different brands of those. Again, they don't puree as fine as this one does. I have not tried a mini Cuisinart. I don't know how that one does, but if you have a mini food processor, you could try that. If you have like a NutriBullet or something similar to that, you could try that. This is the one that I have found works the best because it's the most powerful. So this blender has 2 buttons. The top button is just a regular power button, like go, that turns it on. And then the bottom button is a turbo button. So turbo is obviously the fastest it can go. And then along the top here, I don't know if you could see that, but there's a dial. So you can dial it down to the lowest speed. And then you could do like a medium speed. And then you could go all the way up to high, which is 21. So this is super, super versatile. And yeah, I love this appliance. Like I said, I use it every day. Another thing that I use is a kitchen scale. It is very, very helpful so you know how much food you are pureeing for the cat. This one I got at Marshall's. It was like $9.99, but you could also get kitchen scales on Amazon. I just turn it on and it shows 0. Anything you put on the scale before you turn it on will give you a starting weight of 0, which is what we want. So what I'm going to do now is I have this chicken leg that was roasted yesterday. I am going to remove the skin. I'm not going to give Ditto the skin. And I'm just going to start taking the meat off of this and then putting it into the little food processor until it gets up to about 2 ounces. That's usually what I've been feeding Ditto at a time. So 2 ounces of chicken is roughly around 80 calories. And that's without adding any supplements or anything. Dark meat has a little bit more calories than white meat, but I've made this with white meat, I've made this with dark meat, I've made this with a combination of light and dark meat, I've made this with cooked salmon, I made this with cooked turkey, pretty much any kind of meat that you have. I've made this with raw chicken liver, which actually just reminded me that that is what I'm going to add to this right now. So I have 1.8 ounces of cooked chicken, and I'm going to add about 0.2 ounces of chicken liver. So last night I defrosted a bag of raw chicken hearts and chicken liver. I've made just pureed chicken liver for Ditto in the past when he was bleeding more and I wanted to kind of restore his iron levels. I gave him some chicken liver, but you don't want a cat to have too much chicken liver. It should really only be like 10% of what they're eating. So if I'm giving him 2 ounces of chicken, I'm going to do like 0.2 ounces of chicken liver. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just put a whole heart in there and then some chicken liver because he hasn't had this in a while. Again, you could change up your ingredients however you want to. So there's a chicken heart. Chicken livers are pretty big, so I'm just going to add like a few pieces of chicken liver. Let's bring it up to 2.5 ounces. That's good. So right now what I would do is I would write down what I just added to this mini food processor. So I added 1.8 ounces of chicken leg meat, and then I added about 0.7 ounces of heart and liver. I always just kind of combine those. So we're done with the scale now. This is when I would add any powdered supplements to make sure that the powder gets well blended into the puree. This is a Daily Multi Plus powder that I have. It says a natural whole food formulation for dogs and cats. Developed by a master herbalist, incorporating years of research and work with animals. So in here we have some digestive enzymes, some probiotics, some glandulars, and some herbs. There's nettle, dandelion, alfalfa, ginkgo, hawthorn berries, oat straw, astragalus root, ashwagandha root, burdock root, chia seed, broccoli sprouts, barley, grass juice powder. So I've used this in purees for Ditto before, and he eats it. With any cat, sometimes they're going to eat a supplement, sometimes they're not going to eat a supplement. There's some supplements that I would like to give Ditto that he will not go near. Some supplements are more smelly than others, some are more flavorful than others. It's hard to find a nice neutral supplement that cats will eat, but I have had success with getting Ditto to eat food that I put this in, so that's why I'm using this. I add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of this, and I make sure it's blended in very well. Another supplement that I give him is this Natural Oral Care for Pets. It says Daily Oral Care. Provides a specialized blend of oral probiotics that promote the health of teeth and gums. Obviously, Ditto only has 2 teeth, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to make his mouth more healthy. Also, the other ingredient in here other than the probiotics is Psyllium husk powder, which I keep hoping will help Ditto have more regular bowel movements. He only poops like every 3 or 4 days, and Psyllium husk is a good source of fiber, so that's another reason why I give this to him, and again, he seems to tolerate this supplement. You don't have to add these supplements to whatever puree or food you're making. You can add whatever supplement you want that will help your cat, or whatever supplement that your cat will eat. I'm sprinkling in a little bit of dried eggshells just to put some calcium in there. Normally when I make homemade food for cats, I grind up the bone also, but they say you can use some ground eggshells as a calcium substitution for bone. The amount of eggshell that you would use for a bone substitution is 3 grams of eggshell per pound of meat. So when I'm making homemade food for the cats, if I have 3 pounds of meat, I'm using 9 grams of eggshells. So if the amount of eggshells is 3 grams per pound of meat, and I'm only using 2 ounces of meat, I'm only going to be using about 1/2 gram of eggshells, so that's why I just sprinkle in a little bit of eggshells. I'm just estimating 1/2 gram. You can be more precise and actually weigh that out and measure that out. Another good supplement to add is some kind of omega-3 fatty acids. I have this bottle of Pet Omega-3 from NHV Pet Products. This is probably half empty because I've been using this. The cats seem to like this one. It has anchovy oil, sardine oil, cod liver oil, and vitamin E. So we have vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and then we have the essential fatty acids. So normally I'd probably put in anywhere from 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon. I've read that when you're dealing with a sick cat, you want to make sure that they're getting enough vitamin D, and a lot of times you want to actually double the amount of omega-3s that they're getting. So I'll measure this in, and I'll probably use about 1/2 teaspoon right now. This is another supplement that I'll use instead of the multi-powder. This is from NHV Pet Products. It's called Multi-Essentials. It's a dietary supplement. It's an herbal tincture. You just add like 1/2 dropper full or a full dropper full. It says 25 drops, so that's about 1/2 dropper. And this has alfalfa, oat, dandelion, kelp, parsley, marshmallow root, chickweed, stinging nettle, Asian ginseng, yucca root, and Oregon grapefruit. So there's lots of really good nutrition in this also. This is another green powder that I like to use. This is Amazing Grass, Amazing Trio. This is barley grass, wheatgrass, and alfalfa. This is basically like a powdered version of cat grass, and I usually add this to the raw food when I make that for the cats. Sometimes I'll add some of this to Ditto's food also to boost it, but again, with something like this, you have to be careful because if you add too much or too many supplements at once, the cat does not want to eat it. So sometimes it's better to only add a few and just try to kind of vary the supplements, or just find one that seems to work best for you and your cat, or just find one that the cat seems to have no problem wanting to eat. And then this is another supplement. This is actually one of the newest supplements I've gotten. This is Health Force Superfoods Vita Mineral Green. This has grasses, algae, land vegetables, sea vegetables, enzymes. So this is a 17.6 ounce jar. This is a really big jar, but I bought this to put in my own smoothies and to eat myself, as well as to give to Ditto. This was actually recommended to put into cat food. And to feed to animals that need to recover from health issues. A lot of people are putting this in their dog food also. So this is really versatile to have for humans and for animals. This has a lot of similar ingredients to the other supplements I just showed you. This has nettle leaf, carob pod, alfalfa leaf, barley grass, wheatgrass, horsetail, parsley leaf, ginger root, barley grass leaf juice, basil leaf, oatgrass leaf juice, dandelion, moringa, arnia berry fruit, holy basil leaf. This also has some spirulina, chlorella, kelp, dulse, nori, so it has a lot of seaweeds. It has digestive enzymes. So they give you a dose for humans, and they say start with 1 teaspoon per day and increase gradually over 2 weeks to suggested use of 1 tablespoon per day. And then they say mix it into water or juice. So what I've found is whenever you're using a supplement that does not specifically give you pet sizes, the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's safe for the pet. You want to make sure it's safe for a cat. Once you make sure it's safe for a cat, the next thing you want to do is do some math and say, okay, what is the size of a human dose? And then I am going to take about 1/6 of that, and that will be the size of a cat dose. That's just the way I do it, and that's what I've read from other people doing similar things. Again, I'm not advocating for anyone else to do this. I'm just giving you information about what I'm doing. You could make your own choices, do what's right for you and your pets. I'm only showing you what I'm doing. I am not recommending anyone else do this for any reason or to treat any issue. That's just like a standard disclaimer. So if this says start with 1 teaspoon, I'll basically take like 1/5 teaspoon or 1/6 teaspoon. I just kind of eyeball it, and that's what I'll use. So that's how I figure out a dosage if there is no cat-specific dosage available. So right now is when I would add some water to this and start pureeing it, or add some broth. If you want additional nutrition, you could add some broth. Again, it's all just dependent upon what you have available and what your cat will actually eat. So I'm just using some bottled water right now. I just added a little bit in, and then I'm going to puree this, and we're going to check the consistency. It's better to add less water or less liquid and have it too thick, because you could always add more water, but if it's too thin and too runny, you really can't take the water out. I just put the top on, so let's start pureeing. So with this unit, they say don't have it running for more than 15 seconds at a time. So what I'll usually do is I'll usually pulse it first, and then once it gets a little bit smoother, then I'll run it longer. So this is where we're at right now. It would probably be a nice pate, but we want it to be more of a puree. So I'm going to add some more water. Also, if your cats like egg yolks, you could also add some egg yolk to this. I've tried giving Ditto some cooked egg yolks in the past. He wasn't too happy with them, so I'm not adding any. So let's take another look. It's starting to get smoother. But I'm going to add just a little bit more water. The reason why I don't measure out the water, because it does vary. I find that if I write down, okay, 3 tablespoons of water, sometimes things just are different and it might be too much or not enough. So I find that it's just easier for me to eyeball it. Okay, this is looking good. We are getting there. This is it's a nice creamy consistency. It's probably maybe like the consistency of a squeeze up right now. I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner, but this could be good also. I'm just gonna add a little tiny bit more. Okay, this looks really good for Ditto right now, so I am going to go grab a plate and plate this. This is about a 6-inch plate. I had gotten a set of plates from IKEA. This was actually in their kids' toy section, but they were perfect cat-sized plates, and they're really nice ceramic, and I like how they have a colored band around the edge, because what I'll do is I'll write down what I put on each color plate when I give it to Ditto, so I don't forget when I clean it up later. So if he doesn't finish one of the plates, I'll be like, okay, this is what he doesn't like, whereas this is what he likes. So usually when I give him chicken, I just give it to him on the yellow one, just because it's easier for me to remember, and just to, when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's the chicken. And if I'm giving him salmon, I'll use the pink plate, etc., etc. So as not to waste anything, what I'll normally do is I'll take a mini spatula, and I'll just come in here and kind of scrape out any food that's on the top. It's not much, but it's a little bit. And then I'll hold down this middle piece, and then I'll just pour the puree out. Then I'll take out the middle piece and I'll scrape everything off there. Again, not to be wasteful. And then I will scrape out whatever's left in this mini processor, which is a good amount. And these mini spatulas are super handy. I got these on Amazon. I think it was a set of 6, and they come in different colors also. And there we are, we got most of it out. So this is what the puree looks like on the plate. It's like a perfect size. Now, if I was going to add any liquid supplements, I would add them now. I tend to add the liquid supplements after the food is on the plate. That way they can be stirred in, and I make sure he gets as close to the full dose as possible. So just as an example, I'm gonna add like 2 drops of grape seed extract. And then I'll take my spatula and I'll just kind of make sure it is well blended in there. So that's normally how I like to add the liquid supplements. And again, if I'm adding powdered supplements, I'll usually make sure I add them before I puree the food, just to make sure they are all really well blended. So this is how I make pureed food for a sick cat. And this is basically the kind of stuff that Ditto has been eating for the past 4 months. It wasn't always with freshly baked chicken. In the past, I would puree up the homemade raw food for him in the exact same way. You could also do the exact same thing with any kind of canned cat food. So for example, here's a small can of Wholehearted ocean fish recipe pleasing pate. I will actually just open this can, put it in the mini food processor, add a little bit of extra water, maybe some supplements, and puree it up, and it'll make it a nice, fine, smooth consistency that's going to be easier to eat than a pate. I mean, you think a pate is soft anyway, but they all have different textures. Some are softer than others. Some have more little chunks of food in them. So just to make sure the eating experience is as pain-free as possible, that's why I would puree something like that. Now, I would also add CBD oil now at this stage. Right now, after everything is on the plate, this is when I would add CBD oil. I would normally just make sure all the drops are distributed around the plate, and then I would mix them in with the spatula. That's how I puree food for a sick cat. So right now for Ditto, I'm serving this chicken on his raised feeder. I just put some fresh water in there a little while ago. Ditto's walking around. The only other thing I'm going to do is open this envelope of Fortiflora because Ditto really likes the taste of it, and he usually eats more when I do put this on there. This is a probiotic, and it has kind of like a liver flavor. So I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on top. Again, you don't have to do that. Sometimes I'll also open up a squeeze up and I'll like drizzle a squeeze up on top, and he likes that too. Just to add a little bit more variety to his food and what he's eating, and just to kind of entice him to eat. That's about how much Fortiflora I sprinkle on, just a little bit, maybe not even a quarter of the packet. I just try to make a packet last throughout a whole day. So Ditto's kind of pacing back and forth. I don't know if you could hear him. He was purring. So yeah, that's how I puree food for Ditto. Thank you for watching this Lucky Ferals video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you'd like me to post more videos, and please make sure to check out these other videos that were selected especially for you.